everyone. Welcome to our final K-12 / P-12 user group for 2021. We actually do have, let me just share my screen while we're at it. We actually do have our K-6 user group coming up next week, which is more focused obviously on junior / primary school. So you're more than welcome to come along to that one as well. There's some exciting things that we're going to chat about there, particularly the Canvas for Elementary feature. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to really cover that today because we're saving it for then. But as we said before we started the recording, this is a user group, so it's all about everyone sharing what they're doing in Canvas, and we're here to kind of facilitate that conversation, but it really is your conversation because it is a user group. But this is the agenda that we have for today. It's actually a pretty decent agenda. We've formed a little bit of a K-12 committee and also a K-6 committee that is separate to that. And they've kind of proposed a lot of these topics for us to chat about today. So if we don't get through everything, that's totally fine. But again, because it's a user group, we're not stringent about covering just these specific things. If there's other things at the end, once we've gone through all of this, that people want to chat about, and we've still got a little bit of time, and people want to share some of the things that they're doing, then that's fantastic. So to kick us off, we have the venerable Andy Mifsud from Barker College, who I know he's not alone in this, but there are a whole bunch of schools that went through the HSC trials and were trying to get things up and running and putting online exams and all sorts of stuff like that, getting that all happening. And I know Barker had some interesting times, but in the end, probably, Andy, would it be fair to say it turned out fairly well
yes.
in the end?
Yeah, on the whole, surprisingly successful. It was a lot of pain, but yeah, there's certain things that we think, are worth keeping out of the whole thing. So I suppose that tells you that, it wasn't all for nothing.
Yep. No, I'm going to turn my screen off just in case you want to share anything as far as screen sharing is concerned. Otherwise, we just get to see your lovely face.
Oh, well, how about I do a bit of this?
Okay. Perfect.
Can you see that?
How prepared are you?
I actually made a presentation. Yeah, I had a spare 30 minutes before this, and I thought, well, I may as well whack it all together in a PowerPoint. So, okay, so I guess what I'd really like to share is our approach to online assessment that took place last term, and we thought there was going to be a bit more of it happening this term, but the changes to the return of students meant that we kind of had to shift that as well. Really, what I want to share is, I guess, the perspective of a New South Wales independent school preparing mainly for the Year 12 HSC trials online, as well as the Year 11 final examinations. All right, let me see if I can. I can turn slides. So I guess what I want to take you through is these three main things: the resourcing, the design of our online assessments, mainly for Year 12. For their trial exams, but we also use the same process for Year 11, and then to a lesser extent, 9 and 10 assessments are also sort of under this umbrella. So we're going to look at what we did, the things that we want to keep, and what are some other things that we wanted to move towards kind of more holistically. So in a nutshell, we used Canvas classic quizzes combined with the Respondus lockdown browser. So this gave us some reassurance that students would not be able to navigate away from the quiz when they were completing these assessments at home. We also used Microsoft Teams to host invigilation group meetings with students. And we had a whole set of policies and procedures for how those ran, but it included a room check. So getting students to show their surroundings before they actually launched into the quiz, and then having supervisors monitoring kind of just, I guess, like we're looking now at a screen full of faces, security camera style. We had students complete multiple choice questions directly onto Canvas, but particularly for year 12, departments, teachers felt that the handwritten experience is still something that's pretty hard to beat, especially when you're preparing for the a handwritten HSC exam. So we had a mixed approach where we had some online, and the handwritten essay short answer responses were written on paper. So for that, we also needed to use other apps, and we used students' mobile phones with Office Lens and the Canvas app to actually manage the upload of that written work. I'm just gonna, I've made a little video so I don't need to do this and talk at the same time. From the student perspective, everything started in our Connect Hub. And this has been built over the last 2 years. After 2 rounds of online learning, we've kind of built this to be a one-stop shop for student resources. So we made a little online assessment module and created this examination guide. And this is where we were uploading our official documentation and protocols that students needed to follow when sitting those online exams. So it includes what they need to do for their room checks, how they need to prepare their space, positioning of their camera, the need for a webcam if they couldn't get their inbuilt camera at the right direction. We thought this was going to be a nightmare, but it actually turned out to be a lot smoother than it could have been. We also got the students to download the Respondus lockdown browser from this site as well. And then we had the information about the mobile apps, so downloading Canvas Student and Microsoft Lens as well. We needed students to watch a video on how to submit, because using these apps and the whole process, as you can imagine, there's a lot of details in there, and we did want students to understand the process. We even got them to do a little test to make sure that their lockdown browser works just by creating a simple quiz in Canvas, and also got them to upload a practice submission using our process as well. And then the rest of the page is really just about, what they can expect when they take the exam, what they do if before and after, and what happens if they have any technical difficulties mid-exam. That was a very steep learning curve, particularly in the for our first exam, when we originally thought if students have technical issues, we would just we'd sort of just put it up to illness and misadventure and not try to rescue them once they had started. But we did change course very quickly and try to get students back online, and that caused a little bit of chaos in the first day, but then after we had sort of communication channels set up between the staff, that worked out quite nicely too. From the teacher's side, we built a secure Canvas course in a separate sub-account that housed the trial examination quizzes before they were imported to their respective Canvas courses. So there's a whole heap, there's a lot of work here, a lot of professional learning to have teachers upskilled to the level of being able to create these quizzes. But our digital learning team went through each one and checked for consistency and also ensured that the settings were correct. So you can see by the settings here, we had, the lockdown browser was enabled. We had the time limits, and we had to make sure the due dates and all of those dates were correct. The actual look of the exam is pretty consistent too. So as I said before, multiple choice were all done online. So that was nice in the marking side when everything was just automatically graded. And then scrolling down a little bit further, you can see that we've just uploaded the written booklets there over here. So we used the classic quiz because I don't know if this has changed since then, but I couldn't get a PDF to be embedded on the new quizzes. And we did want students to have this booklet so that they can see the sort of suggested space for writing their responses, so that they understand how many lines roughly they need to write. It also made the scrolling and zooming in a lot nicer too. For the lockdown browser requirements, this was new to us. We just got responders to install this to our account prior to kind of the exams being held online. So it was a steep learning curve for us, but we're really happy with the settings and what it allowed us to do. So here's the live proctoring. So you can see that we just enabled Teams to run in the background, which essentially means that once the lockdown browser is engaged, Teams can still run in the background. You can't get access to it, but we know that the students are still part of that meeting, and we can continue to monitor them that way. So that was kind of what we did. Out of all of this, here are the things that we actually want to keep and we want to continue to develop post the lockdown online learning world that we just went through. So we are going to continue to use the Respondus lockdown browser, and we'll probably use that for quizzes and Canvas quizzes that take place online, as well as back in the face-to-face classroom, just because it's going to give us that extra security to know that we don't have to monitor each screen so intently, because we know students can't navigate away once that's enabled. We also want to keep the method for uploading handwritten work. We had patches of teachers asking students to submit work to Canvas by using a scanning app or something like that, but we certainly didn't have a kind of a school-wide policy and a process that all teachers and all students know how to use. And we will definitely continue doing that. And teachers, I'm very happy to say, saw the benefit of having handwritten work uploaded to Canvas, and getting students to do that at the end of the exam kind of process, I think works really well. We would like to, in future, switch over to the Canvas app. If you've used the Canvas student app, and if you use it at your school, you probably know that it does have a scanner built into it, and it's actually a really nice scanner. It scans very easily. You can set it to auto pick up a page, and it saves it and ready for upload. But the one downside is that it saves everything as a JPEG and not as a PDF. And we needed, for this process, we wanted things saved as a PDF in case we need to, easily download the files and do things like that. So I'd love it if that app is developed further and has the ability to save as a PDF, as one combined PDF, rather than uploading a series of individual photos. The other downside is that some exams, your modern or ancient history exams had lots and lots of pages. So having kind of like a whole list of files there is not as easy to navigate through than just scrolling through one nice PDF. So that's one thing that I'm sure it's going to be developed further. We also want to maintain the whole process for allowing students to complete exams online and have it in our back pocket. There's two cases that we think we're going to use it coming soon. The last one I put there is, well, if for the simple case, if a student is unable to be physically present at school, so if they're ill, if they're out of town, if they're competing in some sort of sporting event, and we still want them, and they still have access to Wi-Fi and their device, then hey, we're okay with rolling out these procedures again, because we've done it. Staff know what to do. We've run through and we kind of feel pretty confident about offering this as something that we can do in future. The other use case would be next year we're running a blended learning course in a bit more of a true sense of the term, where students are going to be learning partly online and partly on campus. It's for an accelerated business studies course that students in year 10 are going to have elected and have been applied to do. And we think that we can use some of these same protocols to give them more choice and flexibility about when, it's not really when, about where they complete their online exam. Moving forward, I guess the whole process has forced us to rethink the importance of exams holistically. And rather than putting so much stock into a final examination, I would much prefer to move towards designing better formative assessment points throughout a semester. It's something that the school has started, and this year we started a progressive reporting or a kind of continuous reporting program with 7 to 9. So you can just see some of the checkpoints. So we've kind of got 10 checkpoints throughout a course, split into each semester. And they're just quite simple Canvas tasks. Most of them have some sort of rubric that has an alignment to the Nesta Common Grade Scale. So you can kind of have an A to E type of feedback on each of those tasks. And look, if we were further down the track with progressive reporting, we think the whole online exam thing wouldn't have been such a big deal, because we would have already had so much good data about how the students are going so far, and we didn't need to sort of scramble to get enough valid marks and numbers to generate a letter grade and to put on their report. So it's something that the school is moving towards. It does require a huge mind shift, cultural shift in the way we think about assessments, and that's probably our biggest hurdle. It's because we know that we've got the tech and we've got the design to support us. It's just about changing teachers and leaders' ideas about what assessment is and why you might not always need a big final examination. They're still important, don't get me wrong, but there's more to assessment than just a test. And that's it for me.
I really like that last bit.
Absolutely.
If my son was listening in, he'd be saying yes.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a lot of pressure, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And it made us realize that gosh, sometimes schools can just be one big assessment engine, and there's more to teaching and learning than just that. So yeah, anything we can do to shake it up, I think we should.
We talk about authentic assessment as well, and a lot of online exams, or not just online exams, a lot of really big exams really lend themselves more to rote learning rather than any sort of yeah, Carly knows what I'm talking about. Actually applying what you're learning. So yeah. Does anyone have anything else they want to share along those lines? I really like those last couple of things, just with how we might think about assessment going forward, but also, how you can incorporate those sorts of tools into how you deliver just in general going forward.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it the reason why you made the separate sub account? Was it because you didn't want the kids to accidentally fall across the file or the assignment?
Yeah, lots of reasons. We also didn't want teachers. Some of our sub accounts are very complex with lots of courses and teachers having access to it. So we just thought it would be clean to create a new sub account. We called it Secure Examinations or something like that. And we actually went through the permissions and locked it down pretty hard. And essentially it was just the digital learning team that were operating within that course and that sub account. And we just invite a teacher in to check off that the exam was all done before it was ready to be imported. So we did a lot of hand holding for that side. But we were lucky that we were able to get the teachers largely able to, to create their own multiple choice answers and things like that. We also got the print room. That we've got this wonderful staff of print room. They're all ladies there who been there for years and do a great job. And we actually trained up some of the print room staff to help with the uploading or converting quizzes into Canvas quizzes. And that worked out really well for us, because we now have this resource of other staff around the school that can do that, help to offload the work for us that way.
Cool. Well, one other thing you talked about there was progressive reporting, aka continuous reporting, aka probably lots of other names. It is one of the topics that we do have on the agenda. So I wouldn't mind actually getting a bit of a gauge. There's that handy tool in the reactions tool for raising your hand. If you raise your hand if you have something along those lines at your school at the moment. Tara, Eleanor, Rachel, Jennifer, yeah, Kylie, Andy, Daniel. We got a whole heap of people. All right. So yeah, all sorts of stuff going on. Cool. So there's plenty of you to maybe share on this topic. Who would like to share how they're approaching? Andy's already talked a little bit about how they're doing it at Barker. How about everyone else? How are you approaching continuous reporting at your school?
Hey, Paul.
Hello.
How are you?
Not too bad. How you doing, Jen?
Good, pretty good. We have moved in our stage 4 courses to go to using all of our class activities as assignments or tasks that build our mark book and build a learning profile of the student across the entire semester. So we were one of those schools. I teach TAS, so we would have like a project and a folio towards the end as a summative task, but now across the module, the kids do every class activity and it just builds a learning profile across the entire semester. They still do a project and a folio, but it just is this building. So we end up with these mark books that are like scroll. With some of my teachers are not always thrilled with having to scroll so far to find their marks, but yeah, we found that works really well.
How are you managing that?
So within the module, we used to have in my early days is have activities like our modules were full of pages, okay, with lots of activities, and then assessment was really just one task at the end. But now I've been doing some of my own learning, and now the modules are full of tasks or assignments. So instead of a page and an activity, it's just an assignment. So the kids get all the information and the task at the end, and the submit buttons and all those really cool ways they can drop and drag their stuff in. They sometimes make videos, they do whatever, all those different ways. And then through, if it's a quiz or a discussion topic, it builds in the mark book. And then that module is its own assessment group as well.
So you're creating assignment groups?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
great.
we, in my particular subject, and this working its way across the school in other subjects, we do 2 modules in year 7, for example, and 2 in year 8. So each module is its own assessment group. Does that make sense? So we build a module, and all of the items in the module are in a certain assessment group, and therefore it's building a learning profile, which is worth, because there's 2 modules in a year, then it's worth 50% of their final overall grade. So everything that builds up. Yeah, so we also have observers in our account. All our parents are observers, so they get to see that ongoing marking and work that the students do as well. So hopefully that means that the report that comes out is not really a surprise, because they've had access and they're seeing their kids' work be submitted or not submitted. They've seen their teachers' feedback. They've seen their marking through the entire process. So the reports really shouldn't come as a major surprise, since they've had access to it all year.
I'm guessing that's kind of half the point of doing that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, originally putting the parents in our account was a bit of a scary move because we did it totally blind, but in hindsight it has worked really well, and it's given them, especially over the last, let's face it, 2 years, having them in there, having them with access as observers to see what's going on, has reduced the anxiety with the parents too, about, especially over the last lockdown, that's been a lot harder. So they're at least a little bit informed before they come screaming at you with, what's going on.
Yep.
Yeah. So that whole process, and that was a bit of a shift in attitude for me in particular, and then obviously trying to build that across my school. So I've been doing a little training and in the Canvas stuff, and yeah, that has been really helpful.
So I'm guessing, or I'm assuming then that your staff are all aware of how to filter the gradebook by assignment group and things like that. Because yeah, if you've got that many assessments, it could get really huge.
Yeah, it gets really huge. And I noticed even just some of the upgrades that have come out now, where you can search by task, and you can search much more specifically by student. All those ongoing upgrades are making things so much easier, especially when you do have a mark book that can, like, you can be scrolling for days to find, what you need when you build it this way. But those kind of filtering tools make it so much more efficient to find what you need.
Yeah, that's all courtesy of our favorite product manager, Jody, who many of you met at our last user group meeting. So yeah, she's fantastic. Cool.
Yeah, so that's how we do it.
Nice.
Well, we've taken it a step further and actually done away with formal reports. So Canvas Markbook is the reporting system, and we have one assignment that is the report, the comment bank. And it takes a bit of navigation for parents, but just means some consistency is needed in the Markbook. But it takes away all that pressure for teachers. There's a continuation. It's not just the final outcome, but there's no surprises, and it does encourage parents into the portal.
Jeff, can I ask you a question in regards to that? We have done the same with our year 7 and 8. We're looking to expand it much further. But there's a couple of things. One of them is we have a really strong mentor program. So the mentor reports is based on obviously our connection with the kids and everything we know about them. But there's also teachers who are feeling that they're lacking that information that they would gather from the academic reports, because we can't obviously all be observers, and we don't at this point give access for teachers to act as users to go in and look at students, because of course then they can act as all users. Can you tell me what, if you have come across the same issues or concerns, and or you've dealt with it or done anything differently?
Good question, actually, Tara. Yeah, we don't have a solution to that. It's more informal or connecting with different teachers. But and again, we don't enroll every teacher into every course, because that would be a nightmare, or even a sub account level. But so it's really more an academic report process. But yeah, that's a good query.
I might be able to answer that question. So we might even be one step ahead of you, Jeff.
Brilliant.
So while we keep everything in Canvas, we actually do this funky export and put it all into Synergetic, which is our student management system. And then twice a term at the minimum, we run a report which we call the mentor check-in, and we extract all those student grades. We have a learner profile, which is based on 4 progressions of work attributes rather than academic results. And the mentor gets to see that along the way. Having said that, at any stage, a mentor can request that report from our admin team, and they can see, therefore, that progression of the student in that case. And then again, we probably handhold our parents a fair bit, because while all of it is completed within Canvas, so our end of semester report comment, which sums up, again, we don't comment on the tasks, we comment on student learning behaviours, is all extracted out and produced into a lovely PDF that the parents can print off and send to the grandparents if they so do wish. But I guess it covers us off on all of those. So the learning, journey happens within the course, all the comments. We mandate summative assessments have a comment as well. And then that formal report from the teacher on the learning behaviours is in there, extracted out and produced into a funky PDF.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
We are moving to a new SMS. We're very excited about, but the process of moving to it is much slower than we hoped. So we're relying on Canvas at this point solely for our continuous reporting. So yes, we are totally all over we love that export idea, and I know where we're going we'll do that, but where we are right now won't. So I'm curious if there's anything anyone else is doing.
The other program we use is which is a plug-in to Canvas, is Tentacle. Well, it's a paid and that's a product of Octopus, which is the bigger company, but Tentacle allows any teacher at any stage to have a look where a particular student is. So if a student in my maths class is not performing very well for me, I can go to Tentacle and see how they're going in their English, maths, history, whatever it might be, and figure out if they've just got a problem with me or they're having a problem across the board. So that's another very small cost. I think it was, $5,000 a year for quite a good, particularly in lockdown, a view on students. Very easy click of the button.
Andy.
Patiently
had your hand up there for ages.
I did. No, that's fine. I was just going to throw the other one that we are using, which is called Grade Guardian, and this is for you, Tara. It's basically used to be called Dropout Detective, and I think it's by Aspire EDU. It's a paid plugin, but what it does allow you to do is to basically see a list of all of your students, and it uses kind of a special formula to take different things out of Canvas, like whether they've submitted things late or they've been submitting online. It looks at their grades, it looks at their participation in courses, and it gives them kind of an at-risk score. So you can see in a snapshot which students are kind of falling behind or at risk of falling off the tracks a little bit. That stuff was kind of useful, but one great thing that it also does is it allows you to create, using CSV uploads, these custom dashboards. And you can essentially, we have the same kind of system where we've got a pastoral carer looking after a year group. So if I'm, a head of house, I want to see all of my year 7 group in one kit across all of their courses. You can do that in that product, and you can basically just have all of their names listed down. You click on each one and it brings up their grades, their marks and stuff like that. Click on the next one, it goes to the next one. You can dig deeper into the course if you need to. So if you want to just keep it within Canvas, I don't think it's very expensive for that one either, but could be a good thing to at least put on the maybe list. While I have the floor, can I ask my own question? I'm curious to know, particularly for those, maybe Jeff and Kylie, if you're using the marks on Canvas. I hate to talk about marks, but it's just one thing that gets thrown all the time. Are using marks on assignments to kind of to generate that total grade? And then are you using that total grade as the kind of conversion to a letter grade for the mandatory reports? Or are you doing everything just purely off comments and rubrics? Like, is anyone actually using grades and making that grade on Canvas, the kind of the final grade?
We have a combination of summative and formative. And so those summative tasks will actually go back to Central for us, because that's our SMS manually at the moment, but we'll get there. But that sense of, and that will inform, your standard grades. Okay. So the marks then will be averaged out, but only from those summative tasks that we do.
Yeah, we're trying to go with 5, at least 4 to 5 what we're calling checkpoints each semester. One of those is a more summative task. at the moment, it's the summative task that's used to generate the grade. And then we're giving it, we're throwing it back to the teachers and saying, we'll use the evidence from all those other checkpoints to change the grade so that it fits, more fully.
Yep.
I prefer if we were actually collecting some more data along the way, rather than kind of just generating a grade off one assessment and sort of leaving it up to the teachers to move it manually. So yeah, keen to hear what other people do for that.
We're probably at the other end of the scale, moving away from grades and working with progression points rather than, a student's letter grade on a particular task. We don't ever report on, you've achieved an A overall for the subject. It has traditionally always been on tasks, but we're really moving away and want to bold move and big picture meet students' individual growth along those progressions. How we do that is still a work in progress.
That's the dream.
Yeah. But so we focus less on the grade and definitely more on the learning journey, which was, again, why I found interesting. We hide files in our courses for that reason. So we don't actually use Canvas like a digital filing cabinet. We actually force our kids and our teachers to develop the courses like a learning journey. And we don't ever want them to go to a list of files and, download this PDF, etc. If they need a PDF, it's on a page and it's there for a purpose, with some carefully formulated menus to show them how to get there. So, I felt confident this time we set our exams that teachers could actually upload their exams into Canvas, weeks ahead, that the students couldn't get to them because they can't access that file system. Yeah.
Thanks.
Very interesting. I see we've had Phil just join us. So just to catch you up on what we're talking about, Phil, we're actually talking about continuous or progressive reporting. I know you guys are somewhere along that journey as well.
Yes, Paul, we adopted real-time reporting when we went with Canvas some 8 years ago now. So we've had it in place for at least 7 years. So we use it through exporting the records from Canvas. We have an agreement with our department heads that all formal assessment must go through Canvas. And I think that was a really important step for us to make early in the piece, because it allowed us to have certainty and continuity in terms of the routine and the way that we could actually communicate to both students and parents. So when remote learning came around, we had a system that really didn't need to pivot because it was already there.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you talk about that consistency as well. That's a really, really common story, particularly during COVID, that we've noticed that's come from students, is it has a massive effect on them when there's some consistency from course to course inside of Canvas. Not that every course needs to be exactly the same, they're different subject material. Physical education is not going to look exactly the same as science. But just as far as having some consistency with the navigation that you have in Canvas, so they know where to go from subject to subject, because it can get really frustrating. And I'm not just talking about K-12, I'm talking at the university level as well. Some universities do this really, really well, where they have some consistency in design across their courses. And then there are others that make it a little bit of a free-for-all for their teachers, and they might have a very basic template or something like that as a base for the teachers, but not necessarily some guidance. So we've definitely seen across the board, across all sectors, that makes a massive difference. And that's the feedback so Canvas has anonymous surveys that people, it'll pop up and people can fill them in from time to time. And that's the student feedback that we've had, consistently over the years, but really, it was really pronounced during, COVID times, shall we say.
And Paul, if I can respond to a question from Adam, are we exporting comments as well? So what we do is all formal assessment must go through assignments or quizzes, and all teachers are required to give a comment, an ongoing comment that hopefully is more than good work or good progress and so forth. So we don't so much export the comments because they're always there. But when it comes to the end of semester, we don't require our teachers to write any comments at all. The only teacher that has to write a comment is a tutor, and the tutor's role is to summarise the academic progress, the behavioural conduct, the pastoral conduct, the extracurricular conduct, the discipline of that particular student in that progress. But we've done away with subject comments because we are making them continually right throughout the semester as part of that agreement between department heads that all formal assessment goes through Canvas.
Phil, just off that, how are your mentors or your tutors able to pop in and see the comments from everybody else?
Yeah, that's a good question, Adam, because they can do it. But as you know, that's probably a little bit of a failing of Canvas, that it is a little bit awkward like that. So we've successfully deployed a product called Grey Guardian. It's also known as Dropout Detective. Now, what that does is that gives an interface and summary of all the marks in one place. So it's a one-stop shop. Now, in relation to how that's progressed with remote learning, it hasn't been easy because all of our assessments had to change. But I was looking at a Grey Guardian a couple of nights ago, and you can see it shaping beautifully with the students the most concerned coming up immediately, and then as you click through the different pages, you can see it starting to shape with less concerns. So the beauty of Grey Guardian is that it allows you to then drill down and have a look at not only the comments, but also any missing assignments to see specifically which missing assignments haven't been submitted by the student.
Andy, very patient.
Yes, of course. Yeah, no, it's great hearing that, Phil. I think we're doing something very similar with doing away with the comments at the end of the semester. And I think you've got to, if you're asking teachers to give more kind of ongoing feedback, it's kind of like a give and take thing. And it's good to be able to take something away from them and something that they've appreciated.
Absolutely.
My kind of question, and this is something where we're sort of battling with, is not so much other teachers seeing students, but just the oversight of maybe like a head of department being able to quickly check that a comment has been entered in. We're a fairly large school with 16 classes in our year groups. So it's become a bit of an administrative nightmare having a coordinator or a head of department, just like making sure that every student in that cohort has a comment for a particular, checkpoint or assessment has been a challenge. So if anyone has any insights, and Phillip, you've got the most experience, feel free to share.
Well, we don't have those checks. It can be the responsibility of a department head to do that, or a year level coordinator, but it's developed into a way that every teacher understands their expectations of what has to be done. So we just don't run those checks. There's spelling mistakes being made, typos being made. Of course there are, but that's the nature of real-time reporting. We're not concerned with those little spelling mistakes, and we've told parents pretty clearly that it's a bit more real, raw, kind of authentic feedback. But because we're still early on, I suppose it's just a bit, maybe it's a bit of us just trying to make sure that we know teachers are doing the right thing, and hopefully over time, we'll also develop that kind of expectation that teachers will be doing the right thing. Yeah, I think you just have to keep plugging away with that. But we were at pains to make that a very solid undertaking, both from the principal and the Dean of Studies, to department heads, to teachers, there was an expectation there. We're taking that away from the end of semester artificial stress, but we're probably loading it on you during the term. But there's lots of ways you can do assessment. It doesn't have to be, I think I joined just as Kylie was talking about the idea about not giving points. There's plenty of short formative assessment tasks that it's complete, incomplete. It might be small points, leading up to an assignment weightings that may equate to what's been given in more summative assessments. But certainly the key in these COVID times is to keep giving feedback. And what we've done really, really successfully, and I can say that confidently from the feedback from our parents and from our students, is that we've enabled that continuity of learning, that routine of learning, not to be disrupted by remote learning, because our system was already there and could be not even built on, it just continued.
Nice. Does anyone else have anything else they want to add to the topic whilst we're on it? I have a question for everyone. Just as far as mentors and the like, having access to look at students and going across the board and looking at a whole number of students and things like that. Does anyone have a limited admin that they set up for that sort of purpose inside of Canvas? Yep, getting lots of nods. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure that yeah, I had my mind right on knowing that was a thing that was happening inside schools.
We've enabled all our teachers to drop in and act as a student or another teacher. And we did that pretty early on, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. We enabled that at the request of department heads, and we thought, well, let's make it for all teachers. They've got that limited admin look. They can act as a student, act as another teacher. They can see, hopefully, best practice. They can note practice that isn't necessarily best as well.
So you give them the actual act as permission, Phil?
Yes, we do.
Oh, wow.
We want to share the love around. We want people to have a look at what's going on. We want to be open. We want to be accountable. We want to be transparent. I use it a lot in terms of the aggregation of semester reporting to see how it's going, to check marks. But it's just an expectation and an understanding that everyone is welcome to do that, to drop into other courses and have a good squiz.
So you don't just have a read-only admin view to actually view the courses and content and things like that. You actually give them permission to act as another user.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. There you go. Jen. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Has that changed? Because in our account, the only people who can act as user now are actual account admins. It's been, we set that up, Phil, as well, with all our teachers so that they could act as user. Even our sub-account admins have lost that ability. And I'm just on my account permissions page, and it's not, has that, it's just a question.
Yeah,
has it moved somewhere?
Same with us. We can only set it up if you're a sort of root account admin.
Yeah,
that's why we've avoided it, just to get them out of the
well,
root account.
Exactly, Andy. We had it set up so our KLA and our pastoral admins could, in particular, and teachers could go in, act as student to see what was happening, get data if they needed it. And with the new analytics tool in Canvas, it was great. So they could go into courses and use that the native new analytics, which gets lots of data, really useful data. But it's changed. It's gone. Paul, do you know why and how we can get it back for those? At the moment, all I can do is I can only give it to root account admins. I can't give it to sub account admins.
We created a custom role, like you have the observers teachers, you can create a custom role and just allocate the view things and manually just add all teachers.
Yeah, but it doesn't come up in a course permissions. It only comes up at add account.
It's 100% an admin permission.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not a course permission. So just to clarify that as well. So I'm not sure if it was a thing in the past. I'm telling you, word for it on that, but users themselves don't exist within sub accounts. So it is kind of a root account permission. In order to be able to act as another user, you need to be able to be a root account admin. So that's the whole philosophy behind that, because users all exist at the root account level. It's just the courses that you can put into sub accounts and what have you.
Yeah.
We had
it set up. We had it set up, and we had a couple of coordinators misbehave and go into other courses, so we had to take it off them and make them admins only in their sub accounts. But that meant they lost their act as user ability. So
yeah. One thing to note with the act as user permission is that if you act as an administrator, they get the rights of an administrator. So it is kind of I guess, do it at your own risk kind of thing. So for your information, it might be something that you just need to know about. But yeah, if you guys are considering that, that's a kind of, I guess, consequence that you could have.
We just create a very limited role for our head of campuses. So they can just see, but they're not really interact a whole lot, but it gives them access to the student in their campus.
Fantastic. So we've got through about half of the agenda and we're about out of time. This is not a bad thing. This is actually really good. That means we've had some excellent conversations and robust discussions. So that's really, really good. And I wouldn't want to kind of rush through the other items on the agenda for the sake of just trying to squeeze something in. But I really appreciate everyone coming along today. It's been really fantastic. I've got quite a lot out of it. We even employees at Instructure don't know everything. We're actually not in, using Canvas, delivering teaching with Canvas every single day. That's everyone else on the call right now. So there will be some things that, yes, of course, we might have more insight on as far as some of the functionality in Canvas, as we should. But there's quite often, particularly around why you follow certain processes at your school, or best practice. I'm actually not a massive fan of the term best practice, because what's best practice at one school is not necessarily best practice at another school. There's a lot of culture and a lot of other differences from school to school. So hearing all the different practices can be really helpful. And I don't know about everyone else, but the things that we've talked about today, I can see where you can pick bits and pieces of what other people are doing and maybe help to improve what you're doing at your particular school. But it doesn't mean you have to do everything exactly the same as everyone else, which is great. All right. Well, I think, we're about out of time. Is there anything else anyone else wants to bring up just before we wrap things up?
I was just wondering if people are happy to share their details in an email list, so we can, now we know some people that are doing different projects, contact them directly around that. Is that?
So what we might do, because we just need to be careful around email privacy and things like that. Normally we'll introduce everyone. So we might send out a follow-up form and survey to say, are you happy to share your email amongst the group? And for everyone who says yes, then we can share those around. Sure. How's that sound?
You could set up a Canvas course for us.
All right. Cool.
Can I just add one more thing?
Yes.
I think the last 2 years have been very challenging for us, and I just wanted to say a massive thank you, in particular to you, Paul. But Rio, you have helped us out many times, but you're always on the end of an email, ready to jump in a call. And I actually don't, from Kerry's perspective, don't think we could have made it through the last 2 years without you. So a huge thank you from us, and I'm sure many other people, but we're really appreciative of all the support that you've given us.
Thanks so much, Kylie. Oh man, I got the warm fuzzies. What a great way to end. So fantastic. I really, really appreciate that. We're really lucky. I mean, this has been recorded, but Instructure really is a great company to work for, and Rio and our team and all the people, all our colleagues are really great to work with. So we're really fortunate. But Canvas is also a great product, and so that makes it great. Yeah, I've been with Instructure for over 6.5 years now, and there's a reason why I'm still here. It really is great, and working with all of you. We work with really great people. Our clients are wonderful people as well. That makes a big difference. That makes us look forward to coming in and working, because there are great people that we're working with inside and outside of the organization. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being lovely to work with. Because I'm not trying to be a bit funny about saying that, but we do have some really wonderful clients, really wonderful clients that we work with, and we appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, one last plug for the K-6 user group next week. So make sure that if you have teachers that you think will get something out of that as well, invite them along, send them the link, have them register for that. We look forward to, if not seeing you then seeing you at other times, either in a meeting or at our next user group. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Good on you.
Thanks, everyone.
Love to chat.
Thanks, Paul.
See you.
Thanks,
See you
Ray.
guys.
Bye.